Ladies and gentlemen, most people spend their whole lives polishing their resumes, but forget to polish the person reading it. We chase promotions, deadlines, and applause, yet neglect the one thing that determines the quality of everything we touch: our own inner growth. Imagine what your life would look like if you invested even half the energy you pour into your job into building your character, your discipline, your mindset, your peace. Because the truth is, your job can make you money, but only you can make your life meaningful. Let's talk about how working on yourself can transform everything around you. When we spend our days chasing deadlines, completing tasks, and checking boxes, it's easy to believe that the most important work we do happens outside of us. But life gently teaches us again and again that the real masterpiece we are meant to create is not a project or a presentation. It is the person we are becoming every single day. When you work on yourself more than your job, you begin to transform the quality of everything you touch. Your work improves, your relationships deepen, and your sense of purpose begins to rise from within you like the morning sun. Every job, no matter how meaningful, comes with pressures, challenges, and expectations. Some days you feel rewarded, other days you feel exhausted. But your inner world, your values, your mindset, your character, determines how you respond to it all. If your mind is cluttered, the world feels heavy. If your heart is restless, even small problems look big. But when you invest time in nourishing your thoughts, strengthening your emotions, and grounding yourself spiritually, the same world begins to look different. The same job becomes an opportunity. The same struggle becomes a lesson. The same effort becomes a joy. You may not always have control over your work environment, but you will always have control over how you grow through it. Every day presents a choice to merely work for a living or to work toward becoming the best version of yourself. Your job can give you experience, but your personal growth gives you wisdom. Your job may offer a title, but yourself. Work gives you identity. Your job can bring you income, but your personal development brings you inner wealth, courage, clarity, compassion, resilience, and peace. Just as a gardener does not blame the flowers for failing to bloom and instead enriches the soil, we too must focus on the roots of our life. The roots lie within us: our habits, our beliefs, and our intentions. If you strengthen the roots, the fruits will always follow. But if all your energy goes into polishing the leaves while the roots remain unattended, the plant cannot flourish. Similarly, focusing only on external success while neglecting internal growth will never bring lasting fulfillment. In the rush of life, remind yourself that progress is not measured only by promotions or achievements. True progress is seen in the way you handle criticism, in your ability to stay calm during chaos, in the kindness you show when it's hardest to be kind, and in the discipline you maintain when no one is watching. These qualities may not appear on your resume, but they define your destiny far more than any job description. Working on yourself requires honesty. It asks you to look within, acknowledge your weaknesses without shame, celebrate your strengths without ego, and embrace growth without resistance. It is not always comfortable, but it is always worthwhile. When you learn to control your reactions, refine your intentions, and elevate your perspective, you begin to rise above challenges that once overwhelmed you. Every morning, ask yourself, How can I be a little better today than I was yesterday? How can I speak more gently, listen more deeply, and act more thoughtfully? How can I manage my time not just to complete tasks, but to nurture my peace of mind? Small improvements practiced consistently create profound transformation. It is not giant leaps, but steady steps that change the direction of a life. Remember that your job is temporary, but your character is permanent. Your career may evolve, but your consciousness is eternal. When you invest in learning, not just skills but values, you build a foundation that cannot be shaken by life's uncertainties. Markets change, companies change, roles change, but a person grounded in wisdom and emotional strength remains steady. Work on developing gratitude so you can appreciate what you have. Work on developing humility so you can grow without arrogance. Work on developing patience so you can persevere during difficult times. Work on developing compassion so you can contribute meaningfully to the lives around you. These qualities do not just make you a better employee, they make you a better human being. When you work on yourself more than your job begins to work for you. You start attracting better opportunities, healthier relationships, and deeper fulfillment. Your life becomes richer not because the world changed, but because you did. When you experience this shift, something beautiful unfolds. You stop looking at your job as a place that drains you and begin to see it as a training ground for your growth. Each interaction becomes a chance to practice empathy. Each challenge becomes a test of your resilience. Each responsibility becomes a reminder that you are capable of more than you once believed. Life has an extraordinary way of molding you when you embrace growth with sincerity. The same circumstances that frustrate some people can elevate others simply because of the mind that they choose to cultivate. As you continue working on yourself, you start developing an inner stability that no external situation can shake. You may encounter difficult colleagues, unexpected obstacles, or unfair judgments, but you no longer allow these moments to define you. Instead of reacting impulsively, you respond thoughtfully. Instead of carrying emotional baggage, you travel light. You start valuing peace over winning arguments, purpose over temporary comfort, and growth over ego. This inner evolution becomes your quiet superpower, influencing your personal and professional life in ways you may not even immediately notice. The more you invest in self-improvement, the more you begin to notice patterns within yourself, your triggers, your biases, your strengths, your blind spots. Instead of pushing them aside, you thoughtfully examine them. You ask yourself why certain comments bother you, why particular tasks drain you, or why you avoid some responsibilities. With awareness comes clarity, and with clarity comes the courage to make meaningful changes. Over time, you realize that the biggest barriers you face are not outside obstacles, but internal limitations. And the moment you understand that, you unlock the ability to rise beyond them. Working on yourself is also about learning to direct your energy wisely. Many people exhaust themselves trying to control the uncontrollable, but true power lies in mastering the controllable. Your attitude, your effort, your habits, and your reactions. When you channel your energy towards self-betterment, you stop wasting time trying to change others or seeking validation from the world. You begin to embrace the power of silence, the value of patience, and the strength that comes from staying true to your principles, even when it's inconvenient. One of the greatest gifts of personal development is emotional maturity. the ability to remain steady in the midst of uncertainty. When you work on yourself deeply enough, you stop getting discouraged by temporary setbacks. Rejections no longer break you, they redirect you. Delays no longer irritate you, they teach you timing. Criticism no longer hurts you, it refines you. You develop a quiet confidence rooted not in achievements, but in understanding who you are and what you stand for. And as your inner world becomes stronger and more balanced, the outer world starts responding differently. People trust you more because they sense your calm. Opportunities find you more easily because your clarity attracts direction. Life becomes less about chasing and more about aligning your actions with your values, your efforts with your purpose, and your choices with your long-term vision. The more aligned you become, the more effortless success begins to feel. Not because challenges disappear, but because you have grown capable of handling them with grace. Self-work also invites you to redefine success. Instead of measuring life solely by milestones, you begin to measure it by moments of kindness, awareness, gratitude, and self-control. You start appreciating the value of a calm morning, a sincere conversation, a mindful breath. You recognize that greatness is not found in grand gestures, but in consistent, everyday intentionality. You understand that discipline is a form of love, that patience is a form of strength, and that humility is a form of wisdom. As you continue this journey, you may notice that your relationships begin to transform as well. You listen with more attention, speak with more care, and forgive with more ease. You stop expecting perfection from others because you understand how difficult it is to cultivate within yourself. You start uplifting people rather than competing with them. Instead of being threatened by others' success, you feel inspired by it. This shift in perspective not only strengthens your connections, but also enriches your sense of fulfillment. Working on yourself also means learning to manage your time in a way that honors your well-being. You begin prioritizing rest because you realize that a tired mind cannot think clearly, and a tired heart cannot feel deeply. You make space for silence, reflection, and renewal. You give yourself permission to pause, recalibrate, and continue with greater intensity and clarity. You discover that productivity is not about doing more, but about doing what matters with focus and purpose. When you consistently choose self-growth, your job stops being your identity and becomes merely one avenue through which your identity expresses itself. You no longer chase titles to feel valuable. Your value comes from the virtues you cultivate. You no longer fear uncertainty. You face it with a mind sharpened by wisdom. Every challenge becomes an invitation to rise higher, go deeper, and become stronger. And slowly, without realizing it, you start inspiring others not through your words, but through your way of being. People notice your calm in chaos, your kindness in conflict, your steadiness in storms. You become a reminder that true strength is gentle, that true success is internal, and that the greatest work any of us can ever do is the work we do within. As this inner transformation deepens, you begin to carry yourself with a quiet dignity that comes from knowing you are genuinely striving to evolve. You no longer feel the need to prove yourself because your focus has shifted from impressing others to improving yourself. And when that shift happens, a remarkable freedom enters your life. You stop feeling pressured to fit into definitions imposed by society. You stop measuring your worth by comparisons. You stop basing your happiness on external outcomes. Instead, you start living from a place of authenticity, where your decisions reflect your values rather than your fears. This shift also helps you appreciate the subtle beauty of progress. Growth rarely announces itself with fanfare. It happens quietly, in the moments when you choose patience over anger, effort over excuses, and reflection over reaction. Although the world may not immediately applaud these choices, they form the foundation of a life that is strong from within. You begin to see how small daily improvements compound over time. One thoughtful response replaces an impulsive comment. One disciplined habit replaces procrastination. One courageous step replaces doubt. These small victories shape your character in ways far more impactful than any single achievement ever could. As you continue this journey of self-work, you start noticing that your relationship with challenges transforms. Instead of feeling defeated by them, you grow curious. You ask, what is this teaching me? How can I grow through this? Challenges become mirrors, showing you the areas that still need nurturing. They become guides, pointing you toward deeper understanding. And they become opportunities, strengthening qualities that would have otherwise remained dormant. Through this lens, even adversity gains purpose, because it becomes part of your evolution rather than an obstacle to it. Working on yourself also involves cultivating clarity, clarity of purpose, clarity of values, clarity of direction. When your inner compass is steady, decisions become simpler. You stop getting lost in the noise of others' opinions or the chaos of external expectations. You begin to differentiate between what is truly important and what merely demands attention. Clarity brings peace because it allows you to move through life with intention rather than impulse. You no longer chase every opportunity. You choose the ones aligned with your truth. With this clarity also comes strength, the strength to let go of what no longer serves you. Sometimes growth means releasing outdated habits, limiting beliefs or relationships that pull you away from your highest potential. Letting go is never easy, but it becomes possible when you understand that your inner well-being is more valuable than temporary comfort. You learn to prioritize your peace even if it means making difficult choices, and in doing so, you create space for new experiences, healthier connections, and deeper fulfillment. Another profound outcome of working on yourself is the rise of self-respect. You begin treating yourself with the kindness you often reserve for others. You stop tolerating patterns that drain your energy. You stop shrinking yourself to make others comfortable. You stop doubting your worth simply because the world is slow to recognize it. Instead, you acknowledge your own efforts, honor your journey, and trust your path. This self-respect becomes the foundation for everything else you build. Your relationships, your work, your boundaries, your dreams. The more you grow, the more you realize that life is not about perfection, but progression. You no longer feel discouraged by mistakes because you understand they are simply stepping stones. Each misstep shows you what to improve. Each setback strengthens your resilience. Each disappointment teaches you something essential about yourself. With this understanding, you start treating yourself with more compassion. You encourage yourself the way you would encourage someone you love. You learn to rise after falling without blaming yourself for the fall. As your inner world expands, so does the impact you create. You start uplifting those around you not by force but by example. You encourage growth through your presence, not your pressure. People feel safe to open up to you because they sense your sincerity. They feel understood because you have taken the time to understand yourself. They feel inspired because they see that transformation is possible. When you work on yourself, you naturally bring more light into the lives of those around you. In time, your definition of success shifts even further. It becomes less about accumulating and more about becoming. You measure your life not by what you own, but by who you are when no one is watching. You strive not to be known, but to be genuine. You focus not on building a reputation, but on building a character that brings peace to your mind and value to the world. This kind of success is timeless, unaffected by circumstances, untouched by competition, and unshaken by change. And with each passing day, you realize that this journey of self-work is not a destination but a way of living. It is a daily commitment to awareness, intention, and improvement. It is the quiet promise you make to yourself to rise a little higher, think a little deeper, love a little stronger, and live a little truer. It is the recognition that when you nurture your inner world with sincerity, everything in your outer world begins to align with grace. As this way of living becomes more natural, you start noticing that life feels less like a race and more like a rhythm. You no longer rush through your days trying to keep up with expectations. Instead, you move with a sense of purpose, choosing actions that align with who you aspire to become. This rhythm brings balance. It reminds you that growth doesn't require constant intensity. It requires consistency, sincerity, and awareness. You begin to experience the beauty of slow, steady progress, where each mindful choice contributes to a life built on intention rather than pressure. With this deeper awareness, you start valuing presence. You recognize that moments slip away unnoticed when the mind is tangled in worries or distractions. Working on yourself teaches you to show up fully in the now, to listen without drifting, to work without complaining, to rest without guilt. Presence allows you to experience life more vividly. It helps you appreciate the texture of each moment, the lessons hidden within ordinary experiences, and the quiet joys that often go unnoticed. This presence becomes one of the most powerful gifts you offer yourself and the people around you. As self-growth continues to unfold, you learn the significance of balancing ambition with contentment. Ambition pushes you forward, encouraging you to keep improving, learning, and evolving. Contentment grounds you, reminding you to appreciate what you already have. When these two qualities coexist within you, life feels richer. You strive without feeling incomplete. You progress without feeling pressured. You dream without losing gratitude. This balanced mindset helps you navigate work, relationships, and challenges with greater wisdom and emotional stability. Working on yourself also deepens your sense of responsibility, not the burdened kind, but the liberating kind. You realize that every thought you nurture, every habit you cultivate, every decision you make shapes your reality. Instead of blaming circumstances or waiting for change to happen, you take ownership of your inner world. You become the gardener of your own mind, planting thoughts that uplift you and uprooting those that hold you back. This responsibility empowers you because it places your growth in your own hands rather than leaving it at the mercy of external factors. In this process, you begin to redefine discipline. It no longer feels like restriction. It feels like self-respect. Discipline becomes the bridge between who you are and who you wish to become. It shows up in the way you manage your time, the way you treat your body, the way you honor your commitments, and the way you hold yourself accountable. Through discipline, you create structure. Through structure, you create progress. And through progress, you create confidence. This confidence doesn't arise from achievements. It arises from keeping promises you make to yourself. As your inner work deepens, you discover that the mind is a powerful ally when trained and a challenging adversary when neglected. You begin to observe your thoughts rather than getting swept away by them. You question the beliefs that limit you. You challenge the patterns that drain your energy. You replace negative self-talk with encouraging words. This mental clarity enhances not only your emotional well-being, but also your effectiveness in daily life. You become more focused at work, more patient with others, and more resilient in difficult moments. Another profound shift happens in the way you perceive relationships. You no longer view them as sources of validation or fulfillment, but as opportunities to give, grow, and connect. You learn to communicate with honesty, to hold boundaries with kindness, and to listen with curiosity. You stop expecting others to complete you because you are actively working on completing yourself. This reduces conflict, increases harmony, and strengthens the quality of your connections. People feel valued in your presence because you meet them with a heart that is grounded, open, and understanding. Working on yourself also increases your ability to adapt. Change becomes less frightening because you trust your ability to navigate uncertainty. You understand that life is not meant to be controlled. It is meant to be embraced. You develop the flexibility to adjust your plans, the wisdom to accept what you cannot change, and the courage to change what you can. This adaptability protects your peace, even when circumstances shift unexpectedly. It teaches you to find stability within yourself rather than relying on external conditions. As you continue to evolve, you begin to celebrate progress that cannot be seen from the outside moments when you choose forgiveness over resentment, courage over fear, kindness over judgment. You recognize that these inner victories shape your destiny more profoundly than external accomplishments ever will. They help you build a life rooted in authenticity, compassion, and purpose. They create the inner foundation that supports every dream you pursue. Over time, your relationship with work also transforms. You stop seeing it as a source of stress and start viewing it as an extension of the values you cultivate within yourself. Whether the day feels smooth or challenging, you approach it with a mindset shaped by patience, clarity, and growth. You aim not just to complete tasks, but to elevate the quality of your contributions. You bring integrity to your actions, empathy to your interactions, and commitment to your responsibilities. This shift not only enhances your performance, but also increases your sense of fulfillment. And as your inner journey unfolds further, you begin to realize that working on yourself is the greatest investment you can ever make. It enriches every area of your life not by changing the world around you, but by changing the way you move through the world. It elevates your work, deepens your relationships, strengthens your resilience, and nurtures your peace. It turns challenges into teachers, failures into lessons, and experiences into wisdom. It shapes a life not defined by circumstances, but by consciousness, not driven by fear but guided by growth, not built on external achievements but anchored in inner transformation.